What is up, everyone? Chris Gio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. Just wanted to do a little Beyond the Veil quickie, famous last words before a 4-hour show. I am going to try to keep this under 20 minutes, though. Got some great comments from a quick, just kind of off-the-cuff video I was doing. I was kind of bored sitting in traffic, did a little video, and somebody left this comment. I have a problem. I cannot respect sheep. I want to avoid them. I don't want to interact with them since the world is full of them. I don't socialize. I'm finding it a catch-22 situation. My question is, how do I deal with sheep who are dear friends? I just can't be shallow and I just can't be fake. And I responded just a few minutes ago. I totally feel you. This will actually make a great little mini video. I think I'll hop on in front of the camera and do what I do. And funny enough, 1 minute before I do this, I get this excellent comment here. That's a great representation of what I'm talking about. This video has little to no value. Do bye-bye. Irritating video with all kinds of distractions like engine noises and freeway traffic, but most of all, condescending know-it-all voice drive me to the dark side of the Matrix, so-called Matrix. Do bye-bye, Geo. All right. So it's interesting to see a really polarized dynamic. And big shout out real quick. I just want to say thank you to Mirham. Thank you, Chris. You both feel like family to me. It makes me feel like I'm at home again when I listen to you guys. And thank you, and lots of loving energy to each and every one of you. And that's the reason why when I'm bored, I'll like just hop on and just do like a quick little video. You know, I almost got run over by a freaking 18-wheeler as I started the freaking stream. Maybe that's why there's so many fucking distractions going on and the camera's falling down, because this 18-wheeler, I mentioned that. Anyways, all right. I want to talk about dealing with lower level, or what I call NPC. Or maybe some people that just haven't ascended, or some people that have just, you know, they've refused to ascend. And we run into this all the time. So if you go back and you type in what is an NPC, in YouTube. YouTube likes to push all of our stuff way down at the bottom. But we posted here 4 years ago, what is an NPC? We were the first ones to coin the term non-player character NPC in terms of consciousness, and that meme just went like viral. And the other term that we coined is organic consciousness and raw consciousness. And organic consciousness would be like consciousness that exists outside of the matrix. Non-player character consciousness, or non-player character, would be consciousness that exists within the matrix. Raw consciousness is when we're operating from our higher selves, or what I would refer to as our raw consciousness. And that's the level that we tap into, but we're not always functioning in that level. And the reason is because we simply can't. We're here in the 3D world, and we have to interact with the 3D world. We did an ayahuasca session for about 2 to 3 weeks straight, and we were glowing. I mean, we were just on fire. People were coming up to us, wanting to give us hugs, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. But we were having trouble functioning in the 3D. We had to reintegrate into the 3D. Of course, after the ayahuasca experience in the Great Pyramid, that took a year to reintegrate into the 3D matrix. And throughout these journeys, throughout this time, what I realized is that you have to understand how to interact in the 3D world. That's what the higher consciousness beings, for all intents and purposes, and I use the term 5D and 3D in the title, but that's just because they're familiar terms. You know my view on 5D, just for anybody that doesn't. 5D is New Age BS, because organic consciousness that's come out from outside of the matrix, we're already ascended. We're already like, you know, at the highest levels that there is, which is outside of the matrix. Any other level going up and down in this matrix is still within this matrix. We've come from outside, so we don't even have any levels in this matrix. We just came in here to either experience or to do a job. While we are surrounded by people who are non-player characters, or people who are organic consciousness but are running the programs of the matrix. And the value that I found in recognizing non-player characters within this machine is that it helped me to learn how to better interact with people from a higher consciousness perspective. You see, there's this zeitgeist out there that if you're quote unquote higher consciousness, that you have to maintain this higher consciousness whole deal. But when I came crashing down and the pendulum swung the other way, when I achieved this so-called Christ consciousness state, I went into a depression, and I went into this place of feeling like I did something wrong, when in actual fact I did everything right. I ascended and achieved those quote-unquote higher states of consciousness and those very deep ayahuasca experiences. Then I came back to the 3D to integrate back into the 3D, take what I learned from those experiences of raising the consciousness and coming back here and utilizing them to make the 3D world better. And part of the recognition that I saw within people and within myself is the ability to distinguish those who are running a program and those who are not. And we're all running a program to a certain degree. That's what our 3D ego and identity is. It's part of this matrix, but we can tap into that raw consciousness element of ourselves. But there are some people out there that just simply cannot operate without running a program. And that's the thing, is that we don't have to be up high here looking down on everybody else. The key, in my opinion, to interacting in the 3D realm is being able to master all quote-unquote dimensional states, whether it's a 3D state or whether it's a higher consciousness state. It's being able to navigate and jump back and forth between them depending on the situation that you're in. So, for example, if I am at a bar hanging out with friends, I'm not going to start talking about NPCs. I'm not going to start talking about raw consciousness. I'm not going to start talking about esoteric ideas. I'm not going to start talking about ancient Egypt. I'm just going to be listening to whatever people are talking about. And sometimes I'll throw out little clues out there, like, little feelers, I should say, like, you ever heard of the Mandela effect? Oh, really? Okay, what's your favorite Mandela effect? Then from there, the conversation can grow. But if they haven't even reached the level of even understanding what the Mandela effect is, for example, that's a really good feeler, then this isn't really somebody that I should interact with or try to interact with on that same level. So it's like being a college graduate and expecting a fifth grader to be able to talk to you about calculus and about some of the ideas that they teach in college, like that there's 52 different genders and all this nonsense. No, I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. But whatever there's the hell they're teaching in college, or what they're supposed to be teaching in college. Let me just put it like that, because college is just like nothing but like brainwashing these days. But that's a whole nother story. But my point is that we have the ability to interact with people on their level. And that's what makes it more powerful, in my opinion, where it seems like the zeitgeist out there, at least with the New Age zeitgeist, it's a very like kind of zeitgeist, like, oh, you're such a lower consciousness. Oh, all that. But I understand the difficulty of trying to interact with people who are non-player characters or the lower consciousness. I mean, trust me, I was right there with everybody in 2020. When we'd walk into a store and you just hear mask, 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 they sound like freaking sheep. And that's what the comment actually said. I just can't deal with the sheep. And they actually sounded like sheep for a while. They were like, mask, mask, mask. And I'm like, how much more sheepish can you get? And it was frustrating. And I tried to avoid it as much as possible. But at the same time, I started putting things into perspective. Okay, so it's my friend's local business, or a local business that I go to on a regular basis. Do I want to go in there to that business, or I'm going to keep going, or I want to keep going? They're being watched by the county. The county is literally with binoculars looking through people's windows, watching businesses and watching customers interacting without a mask on, and going and finding those businesses. So do I want to add pressure to somebody who is also under that amount of pressure? by walking in there and making a big deal about wearing a mask. And of course, this is all like the mask mandates have all been lifted now. I'm just using these examples that I've lived. But I started asking myself, in what situations do I want to be understanding? And I think that's the situation that it comes down to, or what it really comes down to is understanding. I was understanding and empathetic of the situation that my friends' businesses were in. There was one business, and this was VisionWorks eyeglass store, and I don't mind putting it out there. I walk in when the mandates have been lifted. Okay, no more mandates. They're demanding that I wear a mask. Of course, I made a scene at that place because the mandates have been lifted. And so they were just doing it just for the sheer sake of doing it. And then they stopped doing the mandatory thing in their office like 2 weeks later. And this lady comes out and she hands me a mask, and I'm like, you didn't wash your hands? And that box is an open box, and how many other people have stuck their hands in that? This is totally unsanitary here. So yeah, I walked out of there and did that. But it came to the point, like during the whole situation, where I was like, okay, I understand the terrain that I'm navigating here. So I'm going to try to go to businesses that are friendly, for lack of a better term, and understanding, and I can walk in without a mask on, and nobody's going to sit there and mask me. I'm going to try to avoid businesses that do, and I'm also going to be able to understand there's some that are stuck in the middle that really don't want to, but they have to, because they will be fined a lot of money by the county. So being able to distinguish the ones that were doing it because they were being sheepish and the ones doing it because they were being pressured to do it helped me to discern where I wanted to go and who I wanted to give my energy to during that whole time. So now we've come to a point now where the mandates have been lifted and everything like that, but you go out and you interact with people, and some people are dumb as a doornail. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's just, they're dumb, brainwashed sheep that don't even think. Ignorance is bliss, though. And so I think about, what a blissful state that they must be in to be able to go through life without a care in the world. Their finances are just erupting. Their rent's, raising. The price of food is going up. The price of gas is going up. And they're just walking around completely oblivious to it. And it comes from that, TDS from 2020. And I sit there and I just watch them, and I'm like, I just can't believe that there's, people out there that are so dense to what's going on. But I am finding less and less and less of them. So I think that there's a lot more awakening than we are noticing. But I think what this person was referring to, and I'll get to the core of what I'm about to say here, is this person was referring to friends and family, and I see the super chat. I'm going to give a shout out real quick in a second. Was referring to friends and family, and because the friends and family we deal with too, everybody has, and unfortunately, organic consciousness is so far and few between that it's really, really rare to find more organic consciousness within one's own family. And especially in the older generation, and you got to think about the perspective of the older generation too. Our parents, they didn't have access to free information. They didn't have access to the internet. They had access to the mainstream media and everything that they were told, and that's it. And they grew up like that. We were lucky enough to be around during the birth of the internet, and some of us even before, with Telnet and BBSs and things like that. And so we had the luxury of being around from the year about 2000 to about 2015, when there was a 100% free and open internet. So we, for the first time, are the generation that are the most enlightened and the smartest generation between the two other ones, the younger generation and the older generation. And I know we have some younger kids in the chat who are from the newer generation, and they give me hope for the future. But when you look at it in whole, they haven't been exposed to the free flow of information like we have. So they haven't had a chance to ascend in their own consciousness or, see all sides of the coin like we have when the internet used to be completely and totally free and we didn't have the Ministry of Truth, for example, that they're putting together with DHS right now. So even on a non-esoteric level, I think to myself, you have to understand the data set that people are working with. And our parents, which, this person was talking about friends and family, they don't have the same data set that we do. They don't have the interest to elevate their own consciousness. They aren't tapped into themselves. They could care less who's in office, even though they still pay the same amount as we do when they go to the pump. I mean, that should be like a huge indication, it's just right there. But they think, that's just the way the world is supposed to be. And when you really think about it, I mean, pre 9/11, you didn't have to have, you could go, I don't know if you guys remember this, but you can go to the runway and you can go wave your family goodbye. There was no TSA checkpoints. There was nothing like that. Before that, you didn't even need an ID to get on an airplane. And all you needed to do is just go buy an airplane ticket. So freedom has been like a frog in a boiling pot where the frog's been cooked and the freedom's been removed slowly but surely. And we're lucky to be the generation that has the understanding of what things were like and how things should be. In a time when information is becoming more and more and more censored. So that's just on a 3D level. So dealing with people around on a day-to-day basis, the revelation of the NPC is what really helped me, because we have family members who are stuck in their programming. Stuck in their programming so much so that some of them are dead right now. They're dead. Because they were so stuck in their programming that they decided to take that experimental thing. You know what I'm talking about? I can't say it here on YouTube, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. They decided to take that experimental thing. Some of them even had the data. And that's what's even sadder, is some of them had the data. We had one family member who just recently died, and he was calling us a Russian disinfo campaign, and that we were being paid by Russia to push former president propaganda and pro-Russian propaganda, when all we were doing is telling the truth and trying to save his life. And all the truths that we told, the media was saying, no, that's not the truth. Finally, now they're saying, yes, that is the truth. And unfortunately, he saw the end of his life. And at the end of his life, he realized, oh, you guys were right the whole time. You were just trying to save my life. You weren't actually working for Russia. I think the media might be working for Russia, but it was too late at that point. So the difference between an organic consciousness and a non-player character is a non-player character has to run a program. It's like a computer with no program or operating system or anything running at all, period. They're just like blank slates at that point. So that's where like the religious programming comes in and the left-right programming comes in and all this kind of stuff like that. They have to cling on to some kind of program. And unfortunately, there's just so many of them. And that's why it's so easy to just sway them in one direction or another. Hey, look over here. There's a virus coming out of Wuhan. Hey, look over here. There's something you can put into your body that's going to change your RNA. Hey, look over here. Here's Will Smith slapping somebody. Hey, look over here. Here's Johnny Depp's trial. Hey, look over here. Here's Ukraine. Hey, look over here. Back to Johnny Depp's trial. They have to run some kind of program. And when you realize they have to run some kind of program, you start to kind of feel sorry for them to a certain degree, because you can't help but empathize with them. Now, being around them sometimes can be very, very, very daunting, especially if they're friends or long-term friends. But, here's the thing about any relationship, whether it's a friendship relationship or it's a marital relationship, is that people grow. And if you're not growing together, then you're growing apart. And it's a sad fact about consciousness elevation and consciousness expansion and consciousness awakening, I guess, is the proper term, because we have always been what we are. We just forgot. And so as we start to remember, we start to resonate. I mean, Sheree and I have been together for 13 years now, and I'm surprised that we've stayed together for so long. Because normally in this day and age, especially when people are moving so fast through consciousness expansion, people will grow apart, but we chose to grow together. And even though there were some turns there that we almost grew apart from each other, we managed to bring ourselves back to growing together. But here's the thing though. It's if you grow apart from somebody, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you don't have to feel obligated to be around people that you don't want to be around, that you don't resonate with. But at the same time, you can also have a level of understanding to where, you don't want to be that buzzkill that goes out to a party and then starts talking about, everything wrong with the world as far as politics goes and everything like that, when everybody's just trying to sit back and just kind of chill, So you got to learn how to operate in that chill frequency at the same time and operate on their frequency. But that's the thing. When you're able to tap into the raw consciousness, come down and operate on their frequency, and then at the same time operate on the higher frequency, that's how you can elevate people. And in my opinion, elevating people comes from leading by example rather than preaching and doing all this kind of stuff, because preaching doesn't work. I mean, imagine, somebody sleeping. I seem to remember making this reference years ago. Imagine you're sleeping and somebody comes through and just starts banging pots and pans, banging pots and pans. And I remember this is what Alex Jones reminded me of when he would do the whole bull warning thing, banging pots and pans while somebody's asleep. You're not going to wake up in a good mood. You're going to wake up and you're going to hate whoever it is that is banging those pots and pans. It's better, in my opinion, to just kind of like throw little feelers out and talk to people and just be like, hey, you heard of Mandela Effect? Oh, really? Have you heard of this? Oh, really? Did you hear about that? Well, what do you think about the idea? That's one of my favorites. What do you think about the idea? That puts you in a position to where you're asking a question. You're not making a statement. You're not pushing yourself in their minds in one direction or another, but rather what you're doing is you're asking them a question, asking them to think about it. And a lot of times they'll come to the conclusion and they'll say, well, I think about this and that and that. Okay, well, what do you think about this? Well, now that you mention it, I've never really thought about that. Then you get people, provoking, it's like provoking their thoughts. And so that's a much healthier way to interact. And also remember who you're interacting with. People who are 70, 80 years old and they've been stuck in a religious program, for example. We have family members that are like that. They're never going to change. That's their entire life. I remember sitting back and watching America for Freedom or Fascism way back in 2002. And I was watching with my father, who was a CPA. And he used to always fall asleep anytime we'd watch a movie together. But he actually watched this all the way through. And at the end of it, I said, have you ever seen a law that requires you to pay? And he goes, actually, now that I think about it, I'm not going to. I mean, now that I think about it, I never have. And I said, are you going to continue to do people's taxes? And he goes, yeah, of course I am. Of course I am. That's what I do for a living. Why would I let go of my entire living? And unfortunately, people are like that. So even with the information, sometimes they still have to run their program because their program is the most comfortable. I want to give a shout out real quick to Moon Bunny real quick for the super chat before it falls off my screen. Sharing love with a few Moon Bunny bucks. Aw, thanks for I love that, Moon Bunny bucks. That needs to be a crypto. Moon Bunny bucks. Oh, that is so cute. Oh man, I wish I knew how to make cryptos, because that is the name right there, Moon Bunny Bucks. I love that. But thank you very much for the love. So yeah, when it's people that you're around, just in my opinion, just kind of go with the flow. But don't be fake. Don't betray yourself, and don't be unreal to yourself. But then again, sometimes it doesn't hurt to just sit back and just hold your tongue and listen. And I think a lot of times people appreciate when somebody can just sit back and listen. And sometimes Somebody told me this. I don't remember who it was, but they said, knowledge is knowing what to say, and wisdom is knowing when to say it. And I realized that to be the case too, is sometimes the best thing to do is just be quiet and just sit back and go, And the whole time you're just sitting there like, yeah, y'all are a bunch of fucking morons. Yeah, no, y'all are definitely morons. I totally agree with you. Yeah, no, you are. I can see that crystal clear. You are a sheep. You are a moron. I see that crystal clear. Now, I don't vocalize that, but I might be sitting with a group of people thinking that to myself, and I'm thinking, I got to get the hell out of here. What am I going to do? What's the best way for me to get the hell out of here gracefully, still maintain good relationships with people, but at the same time get the hell out of this low frequency conversation that is being engaged in right now? But then again, I guess when I think about our journey, Cherie and I haven't had very many real friends aside from our BTV tribe. And the reason is, you can only operate in that 3D level for so long. And we've got some good friends here in Las Vegas, and we found people with higher consciousness mentality here. But at the same time, we've got some 3D friends too. And it's fun to go hang out with them. And it's fun to just let go and just be 3D and just go out and have fun, party. It is Las Vegas, though. So that's the difference, I guess. Vegas has a different vibe. Vegas has a different feel than any other city. So Vegas is just a party city. And so that's just the vibe that's here. So, I like to get into that frequency. And it's actually a relief. I mean, think about this. You're carrying around the weight of the world on your shoulders all the time. You're carrying around, everything that's going on. It's good to just let go of that for a little bit of time. So I find that to be very healing. So I'm wondering if perhaps the people who you're around who left that comment earlier, you can actually utilize some of that environment to kind of get away from all of this, because it's all about balance. It's all about balance at the end of the day. And when you can't operate in the 3D world, then you haven't mastered the 3D world. And this is one thing that I've been critical about the new cage programming, is that it's all about escapism. It's all about portals are going to open, we're going to ascend, aliens are going to come down and save us, and all this stuff. While at the same time, this is coming from people who are having a very, very, very difficult time dealing with the 3D. Well, how are you going to ascend to 5D if you haven't dealt with the 3D, if you haven't mastered the 3D? It seems like they're struggling to master the 3D, so they want to move on to quote-unquote 5D. But it's just like being in school. If you haven't mastered 3rd grade, how are you going to go to 5th grade? And why do you skip 4th grade? That's always been a question that I've asked myself. Like, why do we go from 3 to 5? What happened to 4th? Is it just like, you just skip over that one, or that one doesn't exist, or I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know why they go from 3D to 5D. I guess 4D doesn't sound as sexy as 5D. You're going to ascend to 5D. It's going to be 5D consciousness. Come get in my hot tub and I'll show you a 5D experience, young lady. Creeps me out. Anyways, so I totally feel you, and I feel your pain, and I feel your struggle, and I am the exact same way. I will not be fake. I will stand by my principles. I will stand by my morals. I will stand by my beliefs to my own detriment sometimes. But at the same time, I also have realized when I should just be silent. And I think at the end of the day, that helps a lot. That helps a lot. And you always see those old, like, kung fu movies, or something like that, where like the kung fu master is like the quiet one, and he never speaks, and then whenever he opens his mouth, everybody listens, and then he's always silent. It's because he's probably sitting back thinking, man, all these people are fucking dumbasses. I can't believe I'm in this fucking matrix with all these people. This is fucking ridiculous. And he's just sitting there because he's got all this wisdom in there, but he's got the wisdom to know when to speak and when not to speak. So if you've got friends, though, that are trying to pull you into a 3D frequency, that's completely different. Family is one thing. I do not believe anymore that blood is thicker than water. That's a bunch of bullshit. I don't believe in family ties like that anymore. That was some bullshit that my mother tried to feed me, that she really believed. But I realized that family are those who we choose, not those who we're born into. But at the same time, I've also learned that family does have a level of importance because of blood ties. And so because of that, I've learned how to operate in their frequency. I'll sit there and listen to them preaching about the Word of God and things like that. Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, okay, perfect, great. I'm glad you think that. My father's really big on the whole, RNA changing thing. He's like, did you get your RNA? Did you get your RNA changed? Are you still an organic human? Do you still have organic DNA? Did you get it changed? Why haven't you gotten it changed yet? And I'm just like, yeah, no, I did. I got it changed 4 times already. And he's like, oh, good. My sister on the other hand, she's like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. She starts arguments with him. And I'm like, this guy's like 75 years old, 80 years old. I don't know how fucking old he is. Just tell him what he wants to hear, Just like, yeah, of course. No, of course. Yeah, okay, let's move on to the next topic now. And that's kind of like the interactions. I don't know if that would be betraying yourself or betraying. I don't think it is, because that's family, and these are people that you have to deal with pretty much for the rest of your life, unless you're willing to just completely just disassociate with them. Friends, on the other hand, if you've got a group of friends and they're constantly pushing you to try to change your RNA or your DNA, and they're actually treating you differently because you're not, they're not really friends, because friends are accepting of one another and they should respect your beliefs. But if you want them to respect your beliefs, you have to respect their beliefs too. And it's nice to engage in discourse, but it's not good to engage in discord. And I think that's the bottom line. And I feel bad because this whole thing has created a big divide. We're not just talking about consciousness. We're talking about changing people's DNA structures. We're talking about people taking experimental things. We're talking about, things that are very, very, very detrimental to oneself and the peer pressure around it. And many of you who are my age grew up with the DARE program. And what was the first thing that we learned? Just say no. When a stranger comes up to you and tells you, hey, you want to try this? The first one's for free. No, And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, they're like, hey, the first one's for free, and the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one. Hey, you know what? We'll even give you $100 if you do it. How about a free beer? You remember that free beer thing I think Biden was doing? The free beer? Oh, we get a free beer on the 4th of July. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go change my DNA for a free beer. Fucking idiots out there. Oh, my God, don't even get me started. Okay, see, that's what goes on inside my head, and I accidentally let it come out of my mouth just now. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just got to be discerning. You also got to be understanding. You also got to understand that you can't explain complex ideas to somebody with the level of the mentality, the level of a 3rd or 4th grader. First, there's a quote out there. I don't remember who said this, but before you engage in an argument, first assess whether the person that you're engaging in that argument with has the ability to comprehend what you are about to say. And if they don't have the ability to comprehend it, then there's no reason in engaging in that argument whatsoever. And you'll find that life is so much easier, so much nicer. And I don't know if it's just me, but I think a lot of you would agree out there that when you vibrate at a higher frequency, you start to attract higher frequency people around you. Now, they may not be as in tune as you are, but they're higher consciousness kind of people. Or maybe it's just Las Vegas. We got freaking, Wiccans and pretty much everything. Like, Wiccan is like the main thing here in Las Vegas, which is why I love it so much, because everybody's like totally like spiritual in a certain way, in their own way. A lot of the Wiccans are liberals, though. And, there's a little bit of they look at me like an anomaly, like, wait a second, you voted for that guy and you're brown and you have long hair and you wear pentagrams all over you? I just don't understand this. You just made my head blow up. poof, it's like, yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking, and your head is blowing up by just a few trigger words. Meanwhile, I don't let the trigger words bother me. I start to actually think for myself. That's the difference right there. But anyways, so maybe it's just Vegas. I don't know. There's a lot of different communities out there, and a lot of different way people interact with each other. But I have found that everybody around us, we gravitate towards the higher consciousness people. And also, I was at the store earlier buying something for Cherie, and I started talking to the sales lady, and we were just talking about life and things like that. She seemed really cool. I didn't mention anything higher consciousness. I didn't mention anything about the economy. I didn't mention anything political. I didn't mention anything about any of that. We just had a great conversation. I've been meeting a bunch of people here, and we just have great conversations about everything except for the things that would divide. And I haven't had anybody come up to me and start pushing their ideologies on me. So at the same token, I don't think it would be right for me to be pushing my ideologies upon anybody else, which is why I always believe in just throwing out feelers. But if you've got friends that are pressuring you, who are treating you differently because you think different, at the end of the day, I would say those aren't friends. Those aren't friends. Find new people, resonate with new people. And sometimes, you have lifelong friends and you just grow apart from one another, and it's a sad, sad, sad thing. And also remember that when you're dealing with an NPC, they are never going to be able to understand the concepts that you're talking about. I mean, if you're trying to, what do I have here? I have soda in my hand, okay? If you've never heard of soda, and I'm trying to tell you how good soda is, and you've never heard of it, you've never seen it, you have no concept of it, you have nothing like that at all, period. I can talk to you all day long. It's this black liquid, and it tastes so good, and it's fuzzy, and all this and that, et cetera, and you're just going to look at me like I'm stupid, because you don't have a concept of it. And that's the way it is with NPCs. Like, you try to tell them that this is a holographic simulation, and they laugh because they live inside the holographic simulation. They were created within the holographic simulation, even though there's plenty of scientific evidence to show that, yes, we are living in a computer simulation. Like, it's scientifically proven at this point, beyond the shadow of a doubt, to me, at least with the preponderance of evidence. I mean, at the very least, let's use civil law standards here. There is a preponderance of evidence that we're living inside of a computer simulation. But anybody who is not from outside of the computer simulation cannot understand that they're living in a computer simulation, because this is very, very real to them. And so one other thing that's helped me, and this was because of the Mandela effect, and this was also because of the flat earth stuff, there was a huge community there is a huge community that believes the earth is flat. There's a huge community that believes the earth is a ball. And these two are fight with each other. At least back in 2015, 2016, they were fighting with each other. That's all you'd hear, is people bashing each other left and right on social media about this idea of the shape of the earth. And with so many people on each side, I had to ask myself, what the hell is going on here? Why do we have people who are so sure of two different truths if truth is objective? Why is it that they're so convinced that their side is the truth, if this is an objective truth? And I realized truth is actually not objective. Truth is actually subjective, and it's based upon the perspective of the observer. And so if you come from outside of the matrix, then you understand that this is a holographic simulation, because you have the perspective of somebody who came from outside. If you're inside of the matrix and you were born in the matrix and you're a part of the matrix and a manifestation of the matrix, then you don't have a reference point. So that truth, that this reality is real, is going to be just as real to you or just as real to them as the fact that this is a computer simulation is to you. And so I started to understand, this is why some people are seeing it as flat. This is why some people are seeing it as a ball, is that some people are seeing beyond the illusion, and some people are still seeing the illusion. And what is a holographic projection? A holographic projection is a 3D image projected onto a 2D space. Some people are seeing the 3D image. Other people are seeing the 2D space. Two very different truths. And they're both right, but they're both wrong. Because at the end of the day, all this is just a bunch of zeros and ones. Both the flat plane and the sphere are zeros and ones. So there's an even higher truth beyond that. And I noticed that with the Mandela effect too. Some people really remember mirror, mirror on the wall, including myself. Others really remember magic mirror on the wall. And there's several groups of people, and that's their truth. That is their truth. And I think it goes to show that some truths are subjective, depending on the observer. So from somebody with a higher consciousness perspective, you can't expect a lower consciousness perspective, or a lower consciousness. I hate using the term higher and lower because it sounds so ego. Let's just use, organic and NPC. To an NPC, these ideas are going to sound ridiculous. They're not going to be a truth for them. And they're programmed to follow their program and to do all of that. To an organic consciousness, we're not bound to those same programs. We don't have to run those same programs. And so not having to run those programs, it results in us being able to free our minds and examine everything from a 360-degree perspective. But that's what we have that they don't. And see, this is why we have to be the bigger men and women, for lack of a better term, in any situation. It's because we have the ability to see in a 360-degree perspective where they don't. So we have to understand that it's okay that they don't have that ability. It's not good, in my opinion, to mock people for their inability to do something, like their inability to walk, their inability to hear, their inability to see. And that even goes and extends to their inability to see beyond the veil. So think about that and think about it. And above all, remember this. Every relationship should be a healthy relationship. And there are bumps that you hit in the road. There are disagreements, and there's growth. If you find that you've stopped growing in a relationship, it might be time to move on from that relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship. If you find that you're unable to grow because the other person is stifling your growth, it might be time to move on. But if you're able to grow together, that's a wonderful, beautiful relationship. Or if you're able to grow independently, but still love each other the same nonetheless and agree to disagree, that's a very healthy thing to do as well. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, what I think we have to do is we have to be understanding of others, while at the same time being understanding of ourselves and giving ourselves what we need as well. And if we need to be around more higher consciousness people, then it's okay to let former relationships go. If we can still continue growing and respect that other people are growing in a different direction, then there's nothing wrong with that either. But when it becomes oppressive for anybody, whether it's your partner or whether it's you, when it becomes oppressive for one or the other, it's going to end in disaster. And so I think as higher consciousness beings, it's best to recognize that first and foremost, and recognize, you know what, we're growing apart, and that's okay. I love you, and I'll see you later. Rather than, this is my way, listen to this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have to agree with everything that I'm doing, because then that puts you in the negative state of frequency. And if somebody else is doing that to you, like, I've seen this before, and please don't think I'm trying to end any relationships out there, even though we have in the past inadvertently. Like, we didn't mean to do this, but people start listening to Beyond the Veil and start to find their true selves, and then their partners are ridiculing and mocking them for their ideas that they're coming to and their gnosis of self. Then they wind up leaving their partners because their partners become oppressive towards that level of growth. Cherie's ex-husband was like that when she started listening to Alex Jones. her husband was just mocking her and mocking her and mocking her and mocking her instead of growing with her. And that's when we met, she's like, I need to get out of here. I need to go see David Icke. And I was like, no, you're married. I can't. And she's like, no, I'm serious. I need to get out of here. She recognized she needed to get out of there because her growth was being stunted. And at the same time, I don't think he realized what he was doing. So you don't want to be on the other end of that. You don't want to be on the other end that's oppressing somebody else from growing because you're pushing your own views upon them. So I think that's something that you can take from all of this. And my ex, she tried really hard to grow with me when I started getting into DMT and ayahuasca and things like that. She tried it with me. She tried to get into the Elohim. She tried to get into all of that, but she was very Greek Orthodox, and she stuck to that Greek Orthodox really, really, really hardcore. And even though she was trying to elevate her consciousness, she was still stuck to that religion, and I was breaking off that religion programming, and I was meant to be with Cherie anyways, But she tried, and I have to commend her, and I recognize that she at least tried, but it was disingenuous. It was just to try to go with the flow and try to fit the frequency that wasn't real. It's one thing if you're a higher frequency and you're holding back some of the higher frequency. It's another thing when you're trying to pretend like you're a higher frequency. I mean, just imagine being in a room of, algebra masters or whatever the fuck it is, mathematicians, okay? And you're trying to engage in the conversation. You're trying to act as though you're a mathematician yourself. You're just going to sound stupid, and you may know a few words here and there, but you're not going to be able to keep it up very long. So be genuine to yourself above all. And this has gone 45 minutes now. I meant it to go on for 20 minutes. But at the end of the day, I feel you. And, we're always here at Beyond the Veil. We got our BTV tribe here, and that's what it's all about, in my humble opinion. And we're getting the work done. The mission is getting done. I mean, I posted on Facebook earlier, and I don't know how many of you follow me on Facebook, but I posted it in our friends only thing. I'll just give you a quick little wrap up of what's happened in the last 2 years. So I'll start with just what happened just recently. Cherie's had some major internal issues from this car accident that she was in. She needed 3 surgeries. 3. I performed this ancient Egyptian ritual on her about a week and a half ago. And I used a lot of the energy from the BTV tribe. Everybody has been sending her healing energy. Everybody has. So we finally get this. We finally go to her pre-op. They do a full examination of the pre-op, getting ready for surgery. She needed 3 different surgeons to do her surgery. And they needed to coordinate. So the lady finally called today and said, August 1st is the first date that I can get to organize all 3 of these surgeons to be in the same room together. And so she was like, okay, that's fine. And then she gets a call back from the lady, and she says, you know what? I just talked to the 2 other surgeons. They said they looked at your pre-op exams, and you don't need these other 2 surgeries. And so we're going to move your surgery to June 1st. And you'll need 1 of the surgeries instead of all 3. And she called me and she was crying. And she's like, sweetie, I don't know what to do. I don't think they're taking care of me. I don't think this and that, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, why are you doubting the magic? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, Cherie, I just did an ancient ritual that I haven't done since, 3568 BC? I haven't done that ritual in a long time, and I did that on you. Okay? It's been a couple weeks. You got your examinations and they're telling you that there's 2 of the surgeries that you don't need. That means the magic is working. And she's like, I don't know, and she called the other doctors, and the other doctors were like, no, we looked at your pre-op stuff and it looks completely different than it does in January. It looks like you have started to heal yourself. And you no longer need those 2 surgeries. You only need this 1. So let's do this 1, and let's get it over with. And she needs 1 more after this, which is the SI joint infusion. But I'm talking about the internal injuries that she has to herself, that she has within herself. And it wouldn't have hurt to do these other ones. These other ones was like removing stuff and doing stuff like that. and it's not any vital organs or anything like that would be removed. And the doctors could have done it for money. I mean, we see that all the time, just doctors doing it for money. These are big paying surgeries. These are major surgeries. But they said, no, she doesn't need it to be done. And the doctor said, surgery is very traumatic. So we want to do as little as possible. We don't want to do as much as possible. So they're not thinking with their minds. They're higher consciousness healers. And when I hugged this guy, I knew that he was a higher consciousness healer. And at the pre-op, he actually said, I don't know what you guys believe about energy or anything like that, but you're going to have to come together and you're going to have your own body's energy healing this after the surgery. I can only do what I can do and rearrange things, but you're going to have to heal with your own bottle, but with your own energy. And I said, no, you're speaking our language, okay? We know all about energy, but I've never heard a surgeon talk about energy healing before. So she called the other doctors and they confirmed, and they said, no, your recent scans that you've had are saying that you only need one surgery, not the 3. You don't need all 3 doctors there. And that means the risks are significantly reduced now. And I told her, sweetie, it's the magic working, okay? It's the ritual working. Just give the magic some time to work. It's got to manifest. She had cervical tumors, and they're gone. They're gone. They biopsied them. They were worried about cancer. We went through all this, man. It was fucking rough. We went through all this. All the biopsies came back negative. I've told this story before. Back in 2020, they did an MRI on my back and they found metastatic disease, stage 4 cancer. And I would not accept that in my reality. And they did test after test after test after test. And then they came back and finally said, well, I guess it was just a misreading of the MRI. I was like, yeah, I guess so, huh? Maybe it's all just one big coincidence. Maybe. But I doubt it. I doubt that we walk into the Great Pyramid of Giza in May of 2018 and say we are going to reset the matrix. And then in the year 2020, the Great Reset is on the cover of Time magazine. I don't believe that we do this ancient, very powerful, energetic healing on something that's very, very, very serious. And then the doctors come back and say, you don't need 2 out of the 3 surgeries that you're about to get. I don't believe it's a coincidence that they tell me that I have metastatic disease, and I'm like, hell no, I don't. And then they come back and tell me that it's a misreading of the MRI. I don't believe that it's a coincidence that they found tumors that they were 90% sure were cancerous and Cherie, and they all tested negative. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's raw fucking consciousness right there. And as I posted on Facebook earlier, I am no longer willing to deny who I am. I am no longer willing to deny who we are as a tribe. I am no longer willing to deny our power or doubt our power whatsoever. We are raw fucking consciousness. And we don't show it with our words. We show it with our acts. And it's fucking amazing. It was amazing to get that phone call where she only needed 1 of the surgeries. Complete game changer. Then she needs 1 more after this, but it's unrelated to it. She needs that, like I said, the SI joint fused. I'm going to work on her SI joint though. We're going to see if we can get that fused energetically. That's actually taking a bone and reinfusing a bone. But I'm amazed. Her tumors are gone. Everything that they were concerned about is gone. Organs started going back into place. They were upside down in January when she got I think it was either October or January, because we've been dealing with this for quite some time. When she got the results, the doctor was like, oh my God, your insides are literally upside down. Ovaries, uterus, bladder, everything upside down. And then she goes for a pre-op. Everything is right side up again. Maybe it was just a misreading of the MRI. I don't think so. I think it was the BTV fucking tribe out there. Kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals, everybody who's been hanging out. And if you need some good hardcore healing too, please let us know, because we will send you as much loving energy as we possibly can. I feel like we owe each and every one of you every piece of energy that we have. because you've been with us on this journey. You've helped us reset the matrix. You've helped us heal. Hopefully we've healed you guys and gals out there as well too. But we're all doing this together. We're all doing this together, and I'm watching it happen, and it is fucking unbelievable. Kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be, and we'll see you even further beyond the veil. I love ya. Hey everyone, Chris Geo here. Just wanted to remind you that if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably getting a condensed version of the show. A link is going to pop up here on the left, taking you straight to patreon.com/BTV Tribe, where you can get the full shows at as little as $3 a month. And the reason is it helps us to overcome the YouTube censorship, the shadow banning, and also stay in touch with our BTV Tribe. See you there at Patreon. Love ya.